Hi, so if you're watching this video, it tells me that you're planning to do an MBA through the GMAT and you're looking at applying to a top B school, right? So let me break the news to you. Top B school GMAT scores are just shooting through the roof. The average GMAT score at Stanford this year, for example, was 737, right? Most of the top USB schools in the 720s and the 730s. If you look at schools closer home, ISB, you probably are gunning for a 700 plus, especially if you feel that your profile is not very different, right? So, if I were to pick one thing in your profile which is going to really increase your chances of getting into a top D school, it has to be your GMAT scores, right? And given that the round one deadlines are going to be in October, we have roughly 100 days. That's it. 100 days for you to take the GMAT and apply to a top school. So in this video, I'm going to tell you things that will help you get the maximum possible GMAT score. And again, in the next 100 days. Right? This video series is not meant to be a pill where I'm going to show you how to get a 760 by using some hacks, or I'm not going to show you some tricks to cheat the GMAT, right? That's not going to happen. I'm going to give you actual actionable advice that you can use on your GMAT preparation starting right away. My name is Arun and I'm the founder of Crack Global, and over the last 12 years that I've been teaching GMAT, so I started in 2005, the last 12 years I've taught over 5,000 students, many of whom have scored 760, 770, in excess of 700. And many of them have made it to top schools like Harvard and Wharton. But I also have students who have perhaps not done so well. There were certain things in the prep that went wrong. In this video, I'm going to unravel what it takes to you to score high on the GMAT. Rather, I'm going to tell you the biggest secret that GMAT doesn't want you to know. Interested to know? Let's see. First up, I have a question for you. Do you think GMAT is a test of intelligence, or do you think it's a test of skill? Do you think in the next 100 days you need to improve your intelligence, you need to be smarter to score higher on the GMAT, or do you think there are specific skills that you need to learn in order to develop the GMAT? Here is what I'm going to do. Let's have a look at some data from the test maker GMAT themselves. So if you go on to Google and if you were to type, how did I do on the GMAT? You will see there is a first link from GMAT, right? These are the actual test makers. Now go and click on this flash player and you get data from GMAT itself, all right? Now it's very important to understand how score distribution works. So 200 is the least possible score, 800 is the maximum possible score. Now let's look at the interesting part, which is quant, right? Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take the average for quant. So this is the median score for quant, which is 38, right? Let us look at United States and let's see how as a country it did. So you see that, approximately 33 is corresponding to the 51st percentile, correct? Which means approximately half of the US is scoring above 33 in quant, and there is another half which actually scores below 33, correct? Now, what do you think India is going to do on this one? Okay, so let's see how India does. Ooh, that's like a very positively skewed curve. So you see in the case of India, right? You see that actually, if you were to score a 46, you are 65th. It's actually a 44, which perhaps corresponds to 43, 44, which corresponds to a 50th percentile, which means half of India is actually scoring more than a 43, right? So that's the way you interpret this, correct? So now as Indian engineers, we are all proud, that, well, we do very well in quant, correct? Well, I have something else to show you, okay? I'm going to now add the score for China, okay? So ready for China? Let the drum rolls begin. This is the score for China. you see very positively skewed. Just think about it. You are saying that in China, let me see, 46 is a 32nd percentile, a 48 in quant, okay, which means half of China scores above 48 in quant. Just imagine, half of it, right? Well, that's the whole power of how, if you're good at one section, you can really crack it. Correct? Now just think about it, right? You mean to say that Chinese in general are smarter or more intelligent? Or do you think Chinese have a particular skill that helps them crack the quant section? So what you saw in that video is really GMAT's biggest secret. GMAT is a hackable test. It's a test of skills. It's a test of you applying yourself to a particular pattern. Right? Now, for that you have to understand what GMAT really is. GMAT is a standardized test. Many people say, oh, CAT is also a standardized test. It is not a standardized test. It is a test which probably has a fixed format. Maybe the number of questions are fixed. Maybe the type of questions are fixed. But CAT is not a standardized test. Okay? GMAT is a test that is created by psychometricians. I know there's a word that you probably have never heard of, but there is actually a term like that. They actually sit and they devise each and every question, and they make sure that the question follows certain standards. Now, when you meet these standards, think about it. GMAT totally has 41 questions in verbal and it has 37 questions in quant. That makes it a total of 78 questions. Out of these 78 questions, about 20 questions are dummy questions. Dummy questions as in they are experimental questions, questions that don't go towards your final 3-digit GMAT score, which means you are left with just about 58 questions. And in 58 questions, GMAT does a fantastic job of grading you from 200, which is the lowest possible score, right up to 800. So you can imagine that the calibration is very fine, it's very accurate, it's very precise. In order to get this precision for the scoring, they need to make sure that questions adhere to a particular set of standards, as I mentioned earlier. You must be thinking, so what are these standards? Can I lay my hand on a book which says GMAT standards, right? Unfortunately, there are no such books available out there which will tell you the standards explicitly, correct? But we need to figure out these standards from actual GMAT questions, real GMAT questions, not unofficial questions, right? This is one mistake that a lot of GMAT test takers end up making. They just go on to Google, they just search for free GMAT material, right? They go to all these sundry sources to get questions, and they feel that the more I practice, the better I get. Right? Wrong. I know GMAT Club is a great forum. I know Beat the GMAT is a great forum. And there are a lot of official questions being discussed there. But the non-official questions, the more you look at a non-official question, right, it's going to confuse your brain. See, the moment you look at an official question, there is a certain standard, as I said. So your brain is actually thinking, how do I figure it out? How do I actually solve it? What are the rules that are being tested? Correct? Think of it like a game of chess. So GMAT is really that. You are observing the rules by looking at a game of chess. So you see that, bishop is moving across the diagonal, right? You also notice that the bishop is actually moving across the same color. And then you know that the chessboard has alternate, black and white pattern. You know these three rules, right? You observe it in different conditions. But then one day you just go, aha, because the chessboard has alternate black and white, and the bishop is moving across diagonals, that's why the bishop is actually moving across the same color. It kind of makes sense, right? So GMAT is like that. The more you solve questions, the more you actually get acquainted to what GMAT is really testing you on, right? So that, according to me, is the biggest secret. And I'll tell you very honestly, GMAT is boring. GMAT knows that there are enough questions out there that for a person it's possible to figure out what the patterns is going to be. But if GMAT ends up releasing any more new questions, let's say 2,000, 3,000 new questions flood the market, then pretty much it's possible for us to really crack it. So we are just there, but still, the best way to do it is actually to practice questions. So that, according to me, is really GMAT's biggest kept secret, right? Now, at this point, you're probably wondering, Arun, are there really enough official material that we can practice from, somehow get this underlying template of what GMAT is really going to ask me? Well, good news, there are plenty, right? So first, we have the official guide. The 2018 version is out. You could also pick the earlier versions of the official guide, it's okay. You have the verbal review, you have the quant review, right? So these are all books that give you what I would call as retired GMAT questions, right? Or as we say in college, past year question papers. Apart from this, you also have the GMAT pack, which is a set of 404 questions that is released by GMAT. You can again find it on India.com. All these resources I'll be giving in the link below. Apart from this, the biggest single source of official GMAT questions that people don't really look for is your GMAT prep and exam pack questions. What is GMAT prep and exam pack? There are 2 free tests called GMAT prep, and there are 4 paid tests called exam pack. Totally about 6 tests. These 6 tests, okay, internally have thousands of questions, right? It's a treasure trove. And what people usually do when they're preparing for the GMAT is they save the GMAT prep and the exam pack test for the end, right? So a week before the test, they actually take the tests to see where they stand. But what they do by doing so is they waste a huge chunk of official GMAT questions, right? So here is the other advice that I have. Make sure you take GMAT prep and exam pack as many times as possible, right? You should exhaust it. And sometimes students come and say, well, I'm seeing repeated questions. Go ahead, score 800. Get a quant 51, verbal 51, right? And you will realize that it's actually not as easy as it looks, okay? The other thing is, at Crack Verbal, we give our students a set of questions that we have reverse engineered, right? We have taken the GMAT prep multiple times and we have kind of created a document which has all the official questions not found in the official guide, correct? If you're able to get your hands on a document like that, that really should be the fuel for your last 1 month of prep, okay? But again, just to reiterate, only official material. Whatever I've just counted probably is going to be about 3,000, 3,500 questions, right? That's a lot for you to figure out what the template is. And honestly, if 3,500 questions cannot solve the problem, 35,000 questions also cannot solve the problem, right? So the point is, make sure that you do official questions. Just making sure that you get this message. So that's the thing that you probably need to capitalize on. So that's all we have for this video, and I hope you liked it. I hope you enjoyed it. Please go ahead and download an ebook with a set of 100 top GMAT questions that will really get you into the practice of solving questions and analyzing them. In the next video, I'm going to be giving you secrets into how a 760 scorer thinks. What does he do differently in terms of the prep, in terms of solving questions, and how does he approach things differently? So that's what we have in store for you. Okay. Meanwhile, I would love for you to comment, let us know, write to us what you thought about this video. Was this useful? And I'm more than glad to kind of respond to each and every query personally. And if you think that this video could be useful to any of your friends who are also preparing for the GMAT, please make sure that you go ahead and share this link. Right? And till then, keep preparing. See you in the next video. Thank you.